It's time to engage, educate, and empower with Tracey Maxfield.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Engage, Educate, and Empower podcast. The podcast designed to help children, teenagers, and young adults everywhere as they try to cope and navigate the world around them and the challenges and issues that they face daily. So every week we'll have a special guest and we will address some of the issues that our kids are facing today, such as mental health wellness, mental illness, foster care adoption, bullying, mental illness, and suicide. Today, I have a very special guest, Mr. Daniel Blanchard. I had the pleasure of recording a show with him last year on Mindalia TV, where we discussed at length the issues facing kids today who are being bullied. And so obviously we're going to touch on that a little bit today, amongst other things. So before I introduce you to Daniel, first I'd like to give you his bio. So Daniel Blanchard is a best-selling and award-winning author, speaker, educator, and TV host. He's written many books: leadership, teen leadership, parenting books, academic books, and sport books. He's a two-time junior Olympian wrestler and two-time junior Olympian wrestling coach who grew up as a student athlete. However, Dan admits that as a youth, he was more of an athlete than a student. Since then, he has successfully completed 14 years of college and has earned 7 degrees. Wow. He teaches special education and social studies in Connecticut's largest inner city high school, where he was chosen by the AFT-CT as the face and voice of educational reform and is now on the speaking circuit for them. Dan was with the team that put forth Connecticut's new social studies framework and is also a member of the Special Education Advisory Board to the Connecticut State Department of Education. In addition, Dan is a teacher consultant for the University of Connecticut's Writing Project. And finally, Dan is a double veteran of the Army and the Air Force. So I hope you are looking forward to the interview with Dan as much as I am. So stay tuned. We're going to take a very quick commercial break, and when we return, I would love to introduce you to Mr. Daniel Blanchard.
Tracey Maxfield is a retired nurse with over 36 years' experience in mental health and dementia. She has spent years studying, researching, and writing on dementia care, mental illness, and bullying in teenagers. Tracey struggled with chronic depression starting in her 20s, and after years of intense workplace stress, bullying, and harassment, her chronic depression intensified. Tracey wrote her book, Escaping the Rabbit Hole: My Journey Through Depression, as a way not to only relieve her stress and anxiety, but to help her friends and family better understand depression. The book became an international guide for mental health awareness, allowing Tracey to focus her attention on helping children, teenagers, and their parents work through mental health issues and bullying. She travels all over the world to meet with schools, mental health advocates, and experts in the mental health fields. She also offers online courses to help children, teenagers, and their parents work through issues, bringing families closer and to bring awareness to bullying in society. For more information on Tracey, her mission, the show, Tracey's book, and offered courses, visit traceymaxfield.com. You can see the latest news on mental health, upcoming guests on the podcast, read Tracey's blogs and articles, and more. Plus, follow Tracey all over social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube to watch the podcasts. See her daily messages and motivation and learn about each podcast guest and experts. Plus, while you're on the website at traceymaxfield.com, be sure to sign up for the free monthly newsletter. Follow Tracey with her upcoming events, interviews, seasonal tips, and the latest articles discussing important mental health topics and issues. And when you subscribe, you'll get a free copy of Tracey's booklet, Why Our Kids Are Suffering and How We Can Help Them. Just go to traceymaxfield.com. Tracey is committed to bringing parents and their children closer to battle bullying and bring awareness to the mental health of children. That's why Tracey is offering her online courses to any adults, parents, children, and teenagers struggling during those hard times. Sign up for the course at TraceyMaxfield.com. You'll receive 8 full modules, over 12 videos, resources, and support discussing mental health, mood disorders, eating disorders, behavioral disorders, social media, drugs, suicide, risks and signs, and much, much more. Plus, you'll get access to Tracey's private Facebook group for individuals going through the same thing you are. Connect with others and share ideas, support, and motivation with Tracey helping along the way. Tracey's online courses is now for a limited time available for only $158. See all information online at TraceyMaxfield.com, where a brighter future is possible.
So, welcome back, everybody. And as promised, I would love to introduce you to Mr. Daniel Blanchard. Welcome to the podcast, Dan.
Oh, thank you, Tracey. I'm so glad to be here. I'm really looking forward to spending some time with you and your audience. And I think this is going to be a great show.
Thank you. I hope so, too. So, I just read out your bio, and I'd like you to share a little bit more about the work you do in teaching.
Well, I got to tell you, I've had such a great opportunity that so few people get in the educational world, because I'm a special education teacher and a mainstream regular education teacher. I teach multiple things. But one of the things that I teach is social studies, which I really enjoy that. So I enjoy teaching history, and I've always said, it's not about facts and dates, which so many kids get turned off to. I always say it's about his story and her story. So,
right.
Exactly.
I
so
like that.
Just teach about stories about people, and every one of us have stories. So,
right.
And if I could back up just a little bit, one of the things that makes my situation very unique and I think very special is that I've had the opportunity over the years to teach the special education and the regular education at pretty much all levels of education. I've taught at the elementary school, special education and regular education. I've taught it at the middle school level, both. Sometimes they're separate. Sometimes I'm just a history teacher, and sometimes I'm just a special ed teacher. And sometimes I have a dual job where I'm a special ed teacher teaching a specific content. That tends to happen a little bit more. I've been doing that. Actually, happened at all levels, but I've mostly have done that sort of thing at the high school, where I've taught special ed and regular ed separately and together, like I'm doing right now. Right now, I'm working in an alternative school for kids that have had trouble surviving in the huge high school. So and I'm the special ed teacher over there that does all the testing, the modifications, the IEPs, the PPTs, and I teach the history class. So that's pretty cool that I get to do that. It's a pretty unique circumstances and special circumstances that I'm in. And then on top of that, I've taught adult ed, and I'm also an online university professor.
Wow.
As well. So I've got to, I get to teach so many different things, and I've seen so many different kids, and I've been in so many different situations. I feel like I've come to know education and just people, in the educational world very, very well over my journeys in education, and it's not over by a long shot.
No.
I still got a lot left.
and I believe we learn every day. If we're open, we learn every day, and that's why I wanted you on the show. Previously, we had spoken on your TV show about bullying specifically, but I want to pick your brains more about, you're there on the front lines. You are helping mold and shape our kids. There are, I refer to them as our future generation, but one of the guests that I've had on already, Dr. Suzanne Henwood, likes to refer to them also as our present generation. And so, the kids, there are our hope, right? And
Yes.
I'd like to know what issues, what challenges have you seen that seems to be repeatedly coming up, regardless of their age? What are you seeing the challenges that our kids are having to face today?
Wow, that's a good question, Tracey. There's so many different issues that are coming up. But let me just backtrack a little bit to something I've already said. Every single year when I'm teaching history, I ask kids, all right, how many of you guys love history? And pretty much almost no hands. Many times, no hands at all go up. And I always say, well, that's probably because I haven't been your history teacher yet. You're going to love history probably like Christmas. Because again, like I said earlier, what turns a lot of kids off about history is the same thing that turns them off to a lot of things, let's say in school, is that, route memorization of facts and numbers and years and dates and maybe names, although names is a little bit better because at least that's a human, right?
Right.
It's kind of like a turnoff for a lot of kids. So as I mentioned already, like I always said, history is his story and
her story.
Exactly. So if you teach in that manner, I mean, kids love like entertainment. They love to gossip. They love drama. They love watching TV. So why not make our classes a little more like dramatic?
Entertaining, yes.
Yeah, entertaining. And I do that. I entertain the students. And, some people would say that's not my job to entertain. It's my job to teach like English or teach math or whatever. It's not my job to entertain. I'm like, but they're being entertained the entire day outside of school. They got their electronics and their computer in a pocket, computer in their palm, and they've got multi-faceted, they got multidisciplinary, they got audio, video, they got all that dynamic, entertaining, funny stuff right there in their palm of their hand. And then they're going to come into school and they're going to be completely bored because you say it's not your job to entertain them. And I think that it is our job to entertain them at least a little bit because that's the way their brains work. That's what they grow up with. That's what they know. So now piggybacking on top of that, I get teachers all the time that say things like, well, I teach math, or I teach English. I teach history. And I go, well, that's pretty interesting because I've always believed that I teach kids.
Right.
I teach kids history. And you should be teaching kids, math.
I agree.
I mean, you got to put the kids first above the content. And I know some people out there are like, oh, content's king and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think maybe content's queen. The kids are king. You know what I'm saying? You got to put the kids first. You teach kids, and that means more of a holistic approach today.
I agree. Yes.
And the discipline is just the vehicle, and maybe just one of the vehicles of many vehicles that you're using to teach kids. You also got to teach social skills. You're not just teaching math or science or history. You're teaching social skills. Mm-hmm. So when I'm talking about, Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat, I'm also bringing in social skills. She wasn't sitting there giving the bus driver the middle finger. She wasn't swearing at the police officer. She had social skills, but then you're throwing those other skills of courage.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? How many of you kids would have the courage? You know what I'm saying? How about the perseverance to walk, not to take the bus when they did the bus boycott, but to keep walking beyond day 1, beyond day 5, beyond day 100, to keep walking to work, those 5 miles to work when it might be raining, you know what I'm saying, or whatever it's doing. I mean, that's perseverance. And that goes with Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement. And I always tell the kids, I always say Rosa Parks is stronger than me. And they, they look at me and they're like, wait a minute, weren't you like, you went to Connecticut bench
wrestler? Yeah.
You were like a 2-time state champ, 2-time junior Olympian wrestler. And they're like, how is Rosa Parks stronger than you? And I'm like, I don't know if I would have had the strength or the courage to stand up to the government and say no, knowing that I'm going to get fired.
Right.
And then wondering how the heck I'm going to feed my 5 kids. I don't know if I've got that strength or courage to stand up alone, by myself as a single person on a single bus to the government when you know that now you're going to be arrested.
Yeah.
You're going to lose your job because you're trying to stand up for what's right. I'm like, I don't know if I would put that above, let's say, feeding my 5 kids.
Right.
So I don't know if I have the strength, the courage, that Rosa Parks had. And I look at these kids, I'm like, how about you? And they're all going, whoa, a few minutes ago they were gung-ho. But now when I'm talking to them about how the heck am I going to feed my kids, they're starting to wonder a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's teaching.
I agree.
And that's, I think, some of the teaching that our kids are missing today.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, because they just got that entertainment in their pocket, that entertainment in their palm. Then they go to school, and it's just like it doesn't gel with them.
Absolutely. And if you go through the mundane tasks of this is what's in the book that I have to teach them in this semester, and they've got to do A, B, C, D, and you're not personalizing it, and then you're not being interactive. And I think it's you and them, but you're together, and you've got something that you need to learn about. And I was back in school in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, and yet the teachers that resonated the most were those that really got you to accompany them on that journey if they're talking about somebody or something, and for you to actually imagine, what was it like? Could you have done it? Can you imagine what this person went with? And those are the stories that I still remember. And I think, yes, we need to start doing that kind of teaching as soon as they get to school, because I find the more involved they are, then the better they'll learn. But also, as you say, they'll develop good social skills of caring and compassion and understanding and respect. Mm-hmm. And it's challenging, because when you have a teacher that comes in who does not respect the children or the teenagers, is there to do a job and wants them to get the grades, kids can sense that. They can sense if you are disconnected, if you are doing it because you have to, and that immediately makes them feel devalued and unloved. And then it's like, well, why am I going to give you everything when you're not willing to do that with me? And we have to, teaching it's like life is so much different to when I was in school, and I'm sure when you were in school. Mm-hmm. And teachers, I don't envy them. They have a hard job, and they have so many tasks that are loaded onto them that they have to do in addition. And they also have very diverse, different classrooms.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you can't be more interactive and develop respectful, trusting relationships with your students, because I think each of you will get more out of it.
I totally agree. And I always try to tell people, especially administrators, sadly, too many schools promote people that are more data decision. Yes. The people that speak the lingo and don't really have all the skills necessary for people. So I always say this is a people business. Education, whether you're a teacher or whether you're in management with the administration pool, it's a people business. And too many of the management pool, the administration pool, are the ones that don't necessarily have the best people skills.
Yes.
They're the ones being promoted to run our schools because they know the right buzzwords to say. They know the right lingo. Saying they understand, let's say, the data or the science of teaching, or not even maybe of teaching, but just the science of education. But they don't understand that it's a science and an art. And the art of it all is bean lost underneath these bean counters.
Yes.
They are actually being promoted. And it's a people business. So, for example, Tracey, my students, I've worked with some of the toughest students over the last 20 years. I work with the students, the special education students, the behavior problems, the kids that get kicked out of the regular high school. And many, many times the students have said to me, they're like, hey, mister. That's where they talk. They never use your last name. They go, yo, mister, yo, missus. Right? Yeah. They go, yo, mister. You know the reason why we don't give you trouble? And I'm like, why is that? They go, because you don't act like you're better than us.
Right.
And I go, yeah. So we have this relationship.
Yes.
Where we can talk back and forth because it is a people business. And the thing is, I want to like my students. Saying I don't want to look at them as numbers or anything like that. I want to like my students, and I do. And because I like my students, they like me back. It's just a natural, like, they
can sense it. They sense. They sense respect. They sense when you like them, when you want to be there and you want to engage them. They see all that from, you don't even have to say it. They will see from eye contact to body language. Kids are extremely perceptive and insightful with things like that. And I say kudos to you, because what you have is, I wish every teacher had it. Not everyone does. It is a gift, but it's a gift that's enabling you to connect with students on a different level, and you're giving them the building blocks, right, to go on and create a future for themselves with the best skills possible. And I think this is what we all want, right, from kids. We all want to give them that.
Yeah. And another thing about being a good teacher in today's times, I think it really helps, Tracey, if you're a good storyteller.
Yes.
Like our books are written like wide, not deep. You know what I'm saying? And they're like encyclopedic in a way. And it's nobody's fault, because you just got to cover so many things. But the thing is, if you, let's say, the history books, for example, that I teach, what I'm saying? Like, they just kind of brush across so many things, because there's so many different things to learn about history. But when you're brushing across these people or these events or these things quickly, it's not going to like catch with these kids. So you're going to go into the story, no matter who you're talking about. If you're talking about Franklin Roosevelt, you got to go into the story about how he was trying to hide his disability. And they're like, what do you mean, he had a disability? And it was like, yeah, he was in a wheelchair. During a time where people who had handicaps were highly discriminated against. If they knew he was in a wheelchair, they probably wouldn't have let him be president. Oh man, that's not right, mister. This and that. And they're like, how come we didn't know he was in a wheelchair? Because the media wasn't allowed to take pictures of him in the wheelchair. You know what I'm saying? He was propped up, and the media and it's just a completely different world and a completely different understanding. And then you go back to, let's say, like the Rosa Parks story that we talked about earlier. You got to get these kids' minds like wondering, wow, I didn't know that. And I wonder, why is that? And when you get that and you start becoming like that good storyteller, you can start hooking the kids and getting them interested in education. And then you build that relationship with them, and you get them to like want to do things for you. Like, I always joked about my athletes when I was coaching wrestling and football. Like, my athletes would go through a brick wall for me. It's a little hard to get students to do that, but you can. You can get students that will do things for you that they might not do for themselves. So maybe they're going to come to class for you. You know what I'm saying? And then later on, maybe they're going to open their book for you. Maybe they're going to do studying for you. Maybe they're going to stop bullying the kid next to them for you.
Absolutely. I hear you. Yes.
They're starting to feel better about themselves, and they're starting to gain some more skills and knowledge and some self-esteem. Then maybe they'll be able to be a little bit more on their own footing, where they can start doing some of those things for themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, I actually can learn. You know what I'm saying? I actually can get through. I actually can feel better about myself and not want to and not have to bully the kid or put the kid down next to me to make me feel better because I just feel like junk. You know what I'm saying? Why kids bully. Kids bully because there's something going on with them.
Oh, 100%. It is. There's something going on in their life, and they're hurting, and they want to put that hurt and that emotional pain onto another person. And the irony is, of course, we know it never makes them feel any better. It's momentary, but it's just their way of trying to deal with what they're going through. And no, I absolutely. And I think, I can see that so many students look to you as a role model, and potentially a male role model, because I'm sure that you have many students that may be from foster care or single parent families and don't have that role model, that male there that's going to give them a different perspective.
Yeah, and even homeless kids. I got to tell you, like me and Eddie DeJesus, the New Britain High School guidance counselor, we started up a program that was called the Man Up. program. And it was for a lot of the boys that were slipping through the cracks that didn't have like these father figures at home. So it was an after school program we've been running for, almost maybe 7 to 10 years. We've been running it. And, we are the male role models. We bring in strong male role models, whether it's from the local churches, the local fire department, the bomb squad, the SWAT team. We brought in a strong guy that ripped a telephone book in half.
Wow.
Awesome. About the size of my legs. And then he talked about what it meant to be a good husband.
Right.
Treat women right.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? A good father. You know what I'm saying? And putting your kids before you. Putting your wife before you. And being a good society member.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did those things. And then in between all this, we had the kids in the weight room. We had a bike riding club. We were doing kickboxing and wrestling lessons with them. So it was just a really, really cool program that me and Eddie DeJesus ran for a bunch of years, and that's what kids need. Kids need strong male role models. And then when I tell the kids, hey, listen, you boys are lucky because you got 2 old warriors up here that are teaching you guys and looking out for you. I was a 2-time junior Olympian wrestler, and Eddie DeJesus was a kickboxing champion.
Oh, wow.
So you got 2 old battle axe.
Power forces. Warriors. Absolutely.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. We're telling you that you need to respect the woman in your life. We're telling you that you need to be gentle with your children. We're telling you that anybody that you are more capable than, you have a responsibility of looking out for them and helping them. You know what I'm saying? Not trying to put them down or beat them down.
That's great.
You have a responsibility to be their protector. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what real men do. That's what real leaders do. You know what I'm saying? And we're sharing these things. And these kids out there, they're not getting that. They're getting reality TV.
Yes.
These terrible role models.
Yes, I know.
Terrible, terrible, terrible role models. That reality TV trash needs to be taken off our TVs because our kids are watching that, and they're being rewarded with lots of money and fame for being idiots.
I know.
Not knowing a thing. And then our kids are thinking, well, that's what I want to be.
Want to do, yeah.
Kidding me? Wow, you know what I'm saying? And then once in a while, these people get called out, whether it's reality TV or maybe it's a sports star that's behaving badly. They get called out about, what's going on. You're a role model. And then they say this stupid stuff about, oh, no, I'm not a role model. Don't call me a role model. I never asked to be a role model. And it's you know what? Here's an old word, malarkey. I don't give a crap what you say. When you got all those eyeballs on you, you got a responsibility to be a role model.
I agree.
So stop taking the easy way out. You know what I'm saying? And we got too many of these reality stars on TV and some of these sports players that are too young to be handling the pressure of the money and fame, that they have. They got to just stop taking the easy way out. It's sad.
Oh, it is. And it's scary because unfortunately, these are idols, stars, role models that males and females are all looking up to and saying, well, I want to be like them, but they did it on TV, or they did a post on YouTube or Instagram and they got 1 million likes, so it must be good. And it's no, we've lost that. We've lost that identity. We've become, what do they call it? The comparison nation. Everyone else is better, brighter, faster, richer, more happy than I am. I want to be like them. I'll do whatever it takes to get there. And we've lost ourselves. To become better than someone else, but to be like them, we're no longer true to ourselves. And I think, kids don't even understand what self-worth and authenticity is because of the way society is just brainwashing them. And that's sad because I think, as you can see, that's why we have so many problems out there. We have such a high incidence, right, of bullying and mental illness and suicide in our kids. It's absolutely absurd.
It's very sad. Social media, I use social media a lot. I love social media, but social media, is a two-edged sword.
Yes.
Like you said, with that whole comparison thing. And then, you get the 12-year-old girl on YouTube that's calling her mother nasty things.
Oh,
that $1 million for doing it. That
Yes.
stuff's got to stop. I mean, somebody has got to put the almighty buck aside, and just say, no, we're going to censor some of this stuff. We're not going to have a 12-year-old girl on YouTube calling her mother horrible, horrible names.
I
That we
know.
wouldn't allow, on TV during primetime, family time, television watching. You know what I'm saying? That stuff's, no, it's not allowed. And stop it. Stop it when you're saying, well, that's where the money is, blah, blah, blah. No. We need somebody to stand up and teach values, and the Hollywood, the social media, the TV world, all that stuff, internet world. We need somebody to do that. I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon because the almighty buck seems to rule, that realm. But at least in schools and with sports and with parenting and those those smaller circles, we need adults to have backbone and have courage.
I agree.
And to not be given in to when their kids, give them the cold shoulder or say something rude to them, whether it's their own kids, their athletes, or their students. I always say, listen, adults, we have all the power. So why do you keep giving it up to the youth? You know what I'm saying? You can tell that kid what to do. And if that kid backtalks you or gets rude or swears at you, okay, now what? The kid's got no power behind that. So stand there, look the kid in the eye and say, do it now. You know what I'm saying? You need to do that right now. Because, what is that? Is the F-bomb really hurting you? The F-bomb is not really hurt. Besides that, the kid doesn't have any power. And for some reason, the adults have forgotten about that. The only power the kids have, the ones that have, and sadly, too many of our kids have been taught terrible values.
Oh,
terrible.
Absolutely.
No manners.
Absolutely.
The power that kids have today is the power to draw an adult into an argument. So what you do is you don't allow yourself to be drawn in the argument. You just be kind and firm and repeat your request. You need to do that now, please. You know what I'm saying? That don't get emotionally sucked in. You need to do that now, please, because if you don't get sucked in, that kid's got no power. The adults have the power, but for some reason the adults have forgotten that. And they've given their power over to the kids, which is just making everything worse because they're the ones that are watching YouTube and watching that 12-year-old girl swear at her mom and say nasty, nasty things to her mom and get away with it and get rewarded. We can't allow that.
No, and I agree. And as I said, this is one of the reasons why I finally decided to do the podcast and have guests like you on. For us, we've got to start bringing things to the surface, upfront and personal, and start helping to share information and educate people that are, we are treating our kids as if they are already an adult. We're exposing them to horrors and experiences that no kid should be exposed to. And we're allowing them to navigate the internet and social media and horrific video games, and we don't have any control over that. We don't. Many parents don't. Many do. Many don't. And kids' brains are developing. Like we know, the frontal lobe doesn't develop until they're in their 20s, and that's your inappropriate behaviors, your social skills, your risk-taking, and we're filling them with all this bad crap, for want of a better word, that they can't make head nor tail out of, and then they follow the role model that's leading them down the wrong path. And parents, all of a sudden they're saying, but I want to be my child's best friend. No, you can't be their best friend. Their best friend should be a peer, someone of their same age group. You can't be their best friend. You can have a good, respectful relationship as a parent. As a parent, you're a teacher, you're a guardian, you're a protector. You guide them, you love them, you support them, but you don't want to be their best buddy, knocking back beers in the backyard or going to a party with your 15-year-old daughter and you acting like an idiot and knocking back tequila shots.
Yeah, it's crazy.
This is you've had your childhood. Do not relive it with your child. Kids, it doesn't matter what anyone says. You can attest to this. Kids need discipline. They need a routine. They need direction. They need a sense of responsibility.
Yes. They need all those things. And like you said, you got to have the appropriate adult relationship
Yes.
with them, because they're not going to do what you ask them to do unless you've got a positive relationship with them. And that's something
Absolutely.
that you can do. And then when they have that appropriate positive relationship with them, and you keep reminding them to always be kinder than you need to be, you keep reminding them to be polite, you keep reminding them to be respectful, to be mature, to be responsible, to become a leader, that's going to make the circles around them better, so that they can make the next generation better themselves someday. You can do these things, you build that positive relationship, and you do these things, but you can't give in to this weakness that the adults are exhibiting today. And I don't know if it's because our parents were so tough on us that we said we're never going to do that to our kids, and now we're making a whole new set of mistakes. But this weakness that I see with adults, and you don't have to be mean. The kids love me, but I'm not weak around them. You know what I'm saying? So when my daughter comes home and she's telling me, she's in high school, and she's telling me that all of her friends are sleeping over a co-ed party.
Oh,
And I say,
no.
There's no way. And she says all of her girlfriends' parents said yes, because they're trying to be their friend or something like that. And I'm like, listen, their parents can say what they want to say, but the bottom line is, I'm not being your best friend on this one. I'm being your parent on this one. And the answer is no. You're not in high school. You're not sleeping over a co-ed party where there's like 20 of you sleeping on the floor in a basement. No, you're not doing it. And my daughter was upset at me because she's like, I'm the only one that's not. I said, listen, I'll come pick you up at midnight. And she's like, you're going to embarrass me. I said, then don't go to the party, or I'll come pick you up at midnight. But you're not sleeping over there. And I'm not yelling or being mean. I've got this very calm voice, but I'm laying down the law. I'm being the parent. And I don't know what these other parents were doing, this weakness they were having, or this misguidedness that they were trying to do, about being their friends, or I'm not going to be the way my parent was. Well, no. Listen, there are parents, whether we like them or not, there were some good things from our parents.
Yes.
And we need to keep that in mind, when we're trying to raise the next generation.
And I so agree. It seems like parents today have gone the extreme. They really have. And as I said, I'm not sure when everything changed. I think there's been a shift in the past probably 15 years, but I would say in the past 5 years or so, it's become very, very prevalent. And I mean, you only have, as I said, you only have to turn on TV. Like, for example, Dr. Phil, his show had a 17-year-old boy who does not go to school. He lies on the sofa. His mum, who's in a wheelchair, brings him junk food, and he plays video games 17 hours a day. And the family are falling apart because when the dad intervenes, he gets violent. And then the dad has a health condition and he just passes out. And so they came on Dr. Phil. And he's trying to tell them, what are you doing? You have a responsibility. He gets off the couch. He goes to school. Period. Yeah. You do not bring him food. If he's hungry, he can go to the kitchen. And so finally, he got through to the boy. And he said, everyone needs help. Your mum and dad are needed to go to their own separate counselors because they have things they need to deal with, because there's no point helping you if you come back into the home and they haven't changed. And so they agree. And he said, it's going to be very drastic for you, but I have to send you to a wilderness camp. And he said, right, you go in there with other kids. You need to detox off social media and the games, but you need to understand values and you need to learn to love yourself. And so the boy went. And so that's how the show ended. And then they did show note update. And it said 9 days later, the parents went and collected him from the wilderness camp because he contacted them and said he was tired and cold.
See, Tracey, that's part of the problem today, is that
Like,
us adults,
really?
we
Really?
won't let kids do hard things. I mean, kids need to do hard things.
It was supervised. There were other kids there. It's like, seriously? So you're allowing him to return home. He's going to fail school. He's never going to hold down a job. He's becoming obese because he's not moving. He does no exercise.
Yep, health issues.
17-year-old controls the household, and yet he cannot vote and he cannot pay the bills. How is that right? How is...
There's a real weakness with adults today.
I mean, that's almost child abuse, right? It's such a bizarre form.
I don't know what happened to the adults today. You know, there's a real weakness with adults today. And I'm not saying that we need to go back to yesteryear when we pulled out the rod.
Oh, gosh, no.
And I'm not saying that. You don't have to do that. But you can stand your ground and say no to a kid. You can. And matter of fact, it's your duty to say no to a kid. Because if you don't teach the kid the meaning of the word no, then somewhere down the road, like a judge is going to have to teach them the meaning of the word no. So, I mean, it's our duty as adults.
It is. I mean, and I'm a huge advocate for, we need to bring in the mental health education into the classrooms as soon as they go to school, where they start understanding that, you know, that life is difficult. They will not always win. They will not always get their way. There is failure, that, you know, they're going to have days where they're stressed, angry, upset. Let's learn how we can manage it. Let's learn how to get along. Let's respect other cultures, you know, it doesn't matter what your gender is. Let's embrace people, children, special needs. And, you know, and let's start being kind and respectful and compassionate and understanding. Because if you instill those values and you uphold them at home as well, that's the big thing. You know, what you say and do, you have to actually reflect that in your day-to-day life so the kids see that. Then even when you discipline, you'll have a better relationship with the kids because they know that you still love them. But, you know, if they've gone through life without even understanding the core principles of what it's like to be a human being and how to get along in the world, you discipline them, they're going to act out. If you haven't got the backbone, then may as well give them the keys and say, here's the banking account, pay the bills, you're running the house. It's become...
lasts about a month.
Right? But it's become so absurd. They are not adults. Stop making them, treating them, expecting them to understand and rationalize as adults.
They can't.
They can't.
Your brain isn't developed enough.
I know.
They just do it.
And that's why I keep trying to talk to them in, you know, everything I do and say, you're not understanding. Their brain is not developed. Even if they say smart ass comments to you, they're risk taking. They don't understand that, you know, going on a car roof to do a social media game as the friend drives 80 down the highway. They don't get that, you know, they could potentially die or be paralyzed. They think, hey, everyone else is doing it. This is fun. My filter isn't working.
Yeah, their prefrontal cortex, where their executive functioning takes place,
is not developed.
It's not fully developed. It's like their mid-20s.
Exactly.
So
24 to 27.
Parents, we have a huge responsibility as parents. And since it's sadly, you know, as a society, we have that huge responsibility. And because it's not happening as much as it should be happening with parents, then the schools and the institutions, you know, the churches or whatever else, institutions that
we all have a role,
bigger responsibility than they used to have in doing this stuff. But at the same time, all of them are facing budget cuts because society doesn't get it. The money spent during these institutions that are carrying some of the weight the parents used to carry, you know, that you're going to spend less money there than you're going to spend in the emergency rooms in the prisons. I treat problems upstream before the catastrophe downstream, because it's only going to get worse. Crime and gangs and drug addiction and
imprisonment, it's going to escalate. Every year it's getting worse. Well, guess what? This is it. We're on the slippery slope.
And you know where that slope started, Tracey, was, remember back in the 1950s when everybody had their porches on the front of the house and all the neighborhood adults that were out watched the kids?
Yeah.
And little Johnny was doing something. You know, Maria, who was 3 doors down, would yell, "Johnny, don't even think about it. I'll talk to your mom. I'll let your mom know." And little Johnny was like, "All right, sorry, Maria. All right, I won't do that again." You know, whatever it might have been, right? And then at some point, let's say like in the 70s, they moved those porches off of the front of the houses
to the back.
And moved them to the back of the houses where they were more secluded, where you weren't watching the neighbors' kids anymore running around playing, the tag football games in the front, street in the front. And then all of a sudden, for some reason, after that, it became, "Oh, well, who do you think you are telling my kid what to do?
Yes.
You can't tell my kid what to do." And I say, bull. I mean, the kids in this world are all the adults' responsibilities. Every single adult needs to look out for the welfare of our kids, make sure they're doing the right things. And I hate to go back to this bullying thing, but we have to. Going back to the bullying thing. I mean, no kid should walk down to the bus stop and have to worry about getting bullied. There should be adults' eyes on the kids walking to the bus stop. At the bus stop, there should be kids' eyes. The bus driver, the bus monitor, those eyes should be on the kids, and the adult should be able to see what's going on and stop what's going on before it grows, and have the backbone to stand there eye to eye with the kids and say, "No, you're not going to talk to that kid this way.
I agree.
You're not going to say things about this kid." You know what I'm saying? That's wrong. The kid gets off the bus. School crossing guards, the lunch ladies, the janitors, every single adult, the teachers, the paraprofessionals, every single adult in those kids' lives should have eyes on those kids. You know what I'm saying? And no adult out there should stoop to the level of saying, "You can't tell my kid what to do." And it's like, I shouldn't have to tell your kid what to do if you had done your job. You know what I'm saying? But since nobody does their job perfectly, it takes others. It takes a village to raise a kid.
I was just going to say the very same thing. We've got to get back to that. This problem is no longer, solvable by parents, teachers, the government. We're all in this together, but everyone has to be in it together. And, it has to start with whoever's in that home, parents, guardian, whether or not you're being brought up by sibling, grandparents. There has to be that adult role model that sets you on that right path. And then the rest of society, especially schools, have to keep nurturing and building on that, because, the kids can't figure it out themselves. They can give us pointers on maybe what we may be saying or doing that's wrong, and they don't feel heard, but they need way more guidance and way more support than you actually think. And we have to do this. And I go back to the bullying, right? Stop being a bystander. You got to start being an upstander. And that is in life, period. Stop being a bystander. Stop taking videos of things that's happening and actually be the person to go there and say, "No, this is not right," or "Let me help you," or "Come with me, let's leave this situation." Don't be there standing there going, "Oh my goodness," and then take the film to share on social media. No, you're no different than the person that's instigating whatever's going on. It's shameful to me. Shame, shame, shame.
Yeah, you're just adding gasoline to the fire by doing that.
Yeah.
So I think we need to teach our kids way more leadership skills than we're teaching them right now. And this reminds me, back a while ago, I was on a TV news show, and it was an anti-bullying segment on the news. And I brought up the whole leadership stuff. And they said, "Well, what does that have to do with bullying?" And I said, "Listen, when you're taught to be a leader, when you're taught to feel good about yourself and your leadership abilities, you no longer have any interest in trying to make somebody else feel worse."
Yes, that's a good leader.
Leaders bring out the best in people. You know what I'm saying? Leaders lead by example. leaders are not going to be bullying people. And then leaders are also going to be those no longer bystanders, but, the upstanders, like you just said. They're going to step in and lead the way and say, no, it's not right to talk to that kid like that. Or, hey, what are you doing? You don't send a text like that to somebody. Or you don't do that on social media to one of our classmates. You know what I'm saying? These are the leaders we need.
I agree, because what happens then is that other students will feel, okay, I like what he's doing. I like what he's saying. Okay, then I want to be more like him, and I want to uphold those same values. And yeah, I'm going to be an upstander and say, no, you can't do that. I mean, at the end of the day, kids want to be liked and supported by their peers, right? They want to belong. And it is. I mean, we do need to do that, because I think kindness and compassion and respect will go a long way over hatred.
Yeah. But they need to be modeled by the adults, Tracey.
Oh,
I mean, because kids, when they see their
yes,
parents or coaches or the guy, that next door neighbor, when they see the adults acting whatever way they're going to be acting, many kids will try to emulate that.
Of course they will.
The adults need to step up and lead the way, and our kids will eventually follow. You need to model. You need to model. So then again, that goes back to those reality stars, get them off the TVs. But here's another thing. I mean, if you look at, just the institution of the family, the institution of marriage, you know what I'm saying? 50% of marriages don't last.
Yeah.
You got, and I'm not saying that there's never a reason to walk away. You know what I'm saying? My father was a very, very abusive alcoholic, and my mother should have walked away, but she didn't. Okay? So I'm not saying there's not instances when it's more helpful to the family for one partner to walk away. But in many cases, you just got an adult that's being weak and being selfish. Well, my partner's not kissing my butt. Not kissing the ground I walk on, or so they're going to walk away from a marriage, destroy a family, you know what I'm saying? Because some other younger woman giggled at a joke of theirs, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever it may be. Some other guy looked like he had more money than your husband. I mean, no, you can't be weak. You can't be selfish. You can't destroy the family unit.
Well,
that destroys kids.
And what I'll add into that is, when there is a divorce, then be adult about it and do not use the kids as pawns. You should not be bad-mouthing the other parent, telling the kids the most horrible things about them so they side with you. That is, it's wrong. And then you wonder why your child is screwed up.
Yeah, the adults are doing.
And that's it. I mean, if we want to know how we can start helping our kids, I 100% agree with you. Adults need to step up and man up.
Yeah,
and be adults. So we're almost out of time. What I'd like to ask you is, so right now, parents, teachers, sitting watching this, what piece of advice, what is the essential piece of advice that you would give them?
I would say to not just the kids out there, but even maybe more so to the adults out there. Become the best version of yourself possible, or even unimaginable. Take it to a place where you don't even think you can go. Pretend that you're on stage all the time and everybody's watching you, so that when you're walking down that hallway, you do bend over and pick up that piece of paper that's on the floor, because everybody's watching you. And that's what a real leader, a real stand-up person would do. They would have patience with somebody. You know what I'm saying? So become the best possible version of yourself, and other people will follow in your footsteps.
Completely agree. I love that. Absolutely wonderful. Daniel, thank you so much. We can go on and on about this, because this is a topic that I so completely agree with you, and we need to try and get that message through to parents, to the adults out there, that they have a role in this, and they can make a difference and start helping our kids. So thank you so much for your time, and I wish you I wish you all the very best. And so we'll take a quick commercial break and I'll be back with some parting words.
Daniel Blanchard is a best-selling and award-winning author, speaker, educator, and TV host. He's a two-time junior Olympian wrestler and a two-time junior Olympian wrestling coach that grew up mostly as a student athlete. Now Dan has successfully completed 14 years of college and has earned over 7 college degrees. He currently teaches special education and social studies in Connecticut's largest inner-city high school, where he was chosen by the AFT-CT as the face and voice of educational reform. Dan was a member of Connecticut's new social studies framework reform and is a member of the Special Education Advisory Board to the Connecticut State Department of Education. Dan's written numerous leadership books, teen leadership books, parenting books, academic books, and sports books. Find him online at danblanchard.net or at granddaddysecrets.com. You can also find him on social media at facebook.com/daniel.blanchard.186 and on Twitter at Dan007Blanchard.
Welcome back, and I hope you enjoyed my interview with Danielle Blanchard as much as I did. Really interesting perspective directly from the mouth of a teacher who's been there, seen it all, and done it too. And I hope that many of you will listen to some of the suggestions and advice he's given, and that not only parents and teachers, but adults everywhere understand that together we can help our kids and we can make a difference. So I hope that you will consider following Dan on social media and checking out both websites, Dan Blanchard, but also granddaddysecrets.com. This concludes this episode of Engage, Educate, and Empower. I wish you all a great week, and please join me again next Thursday, where I'll have another amazing guest who is going to share valuable information that can help our kids. Stay tuned.